Welcome to the Budget Mom YouTube channel. I'm Kamiko Love from thebudgetmom.com, and I'm back today with another real life budget. Now, this is a little bit different because I'm going to be getting into some visuals that I don't usually share on my real life budgets. However, I thought it was really important to bring clarity around trade-offs on your financial journey, especially when you have debt. And I feel like these visual tools that I'm about to share with you are very, very helpful and motivational when you have debt. And I'm going to be getting into that a little bit later on in the video. Today we're going to be talking about Christina. She is from Long Island, New York. Now, before I jump into her story, so she works in the financial services for American Express, and her husband is a project manager in construction. They have two daughters, 1 and 2, and I'm going to be getting into their income and all of that, but really, I want to talk very quickly about why Christina decided to reach out to me with her budget numbers. She says, I reached out because I am frustrated with our progress in paying off debt. We feel that we make great income and that should help us pay off our debt quickly, but it feels like we are moving at a snail's pace. I am unsure if I have the best debt payoff plan. Now, I don't know if anyone here uses Peloton, but one of the things that the fitness instructors say on there is they talk about your favorite ice cream versus the best ice cream. When I ask you, what is the best ice cream? Could you name the best ice cream? Well, no, I mean, there's so many different options. But can you list and say your favorite ice cream? I know I can say mine is vanilla. Does that make it the best? I don't know. There's a difference between the best and what is best for you, your favorite, when it comes to that ice cream example. The same goes with Christina's situation. I don't know if there is a best debt payoff plan. The best debt payoff plan is the one that works for you and one that you can stick to consistently. But if you have that internal turmoil of feeling like, we make great income, we're doing everything we can, and I feel like we should be making more progress on our debt than what we are, then that's what we're going to be talking about today, as well as getting into Christina's numbers. Okay, so before we get into the Budget by Paycheck workbook and the method, let's go over a little bit more of Christina's story and her why. So she's from Long Island, New York. Her why is, I want complete freedom to create memories with my husband and daughters. I want to have the ability to offer my daughters all the opportunities they need to live up to their potential. I want my husband and I to have the freedom and resources to create a fulfilled life for our family. I love that. Now let's go over it in a little bit into her personal story. So her personal story, I immigrated from China to New York City at the age of 8. After experiencing a loss of everything that I knew as a kid, I grew up with a deep sense of deprivation and a fear that I'd lose everything all over again. That's so good. As a Chinese American, I always felt that I was not good enough for either groups, and it created a lot of issues in how I view my beauty and body. When I landed a prestigious investment banking job right out of college, I recklessly spent to try to fill my void and fears. I racked up a credit card debt of $35,000. When I met my husband, I confessed my debt for the first time to him, and we worked very hard on paying that off before we got married in 2019. However, 4 years later, after starting a family and purchasing a home, we are in a deeper hole of $54,000 in high interest debt across credit cards and personal loans. I am tired of getting myself into this situation. Your story of spending to try to prove to be a good mom really resonated with me. Over the past year, I've been working very hard on centering myself on my bigger picture, my why, and working on my insecurities and fears. I want to set a better example for my girls, so I'm hoping that you can help me in steering in the right direction to financial freedom. This story what she has written here is a deep level of understanding of herself. She knows and is aware of some of the things that have caused her to have the relationship with money that she has today as an adult, as a mom. But she also understands some of the deep-rooted reasons why she spends the way she does. As a Chinese immigrant, she didn't feel like she was good enough for either American or Chinese, and that caused her to have a lot of confidence issues around her body and image. I mean, I get that. You know, my mom was adopted from Japan. I'm half Asian, half Caucasian, and I feel that in my heart. I understand what she is saying. So this story resonated with me, but this is a little more of Christina's story. Now, remember, I did say in the beginning, so she works in the financial services at American Express. Her husband is a project manager in construction. 2 daughters, ages 1 and 2. Okay, so this is Christina and her husband's income. They are paid semi-monthly. She's paid semi-monthly on the, I believe it's the 15th and last day of the month, and her husband is paid weekly. So in the month of March, they're getting paid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Now don't pay attention down here. This was me working out some numbers. So total income, monthly income, $13,594. Now New York is expensive. This is great income. So the first thing that I do when I do a real life budget is I look, income minus expenses, where are they? Red or green light test. And I've talked about this before, my red light, green light test. Green light means once you take your income and subtract your spending and expenses, you have income left over. Red light is if you're in the negative. Green light means go ahead with your plan, on to the next step. Red light means hold up, let's stop, let's look at this. Is it an income problem or is it a spending problem? So that's exactly what I did for Christina. So their income is $13,594. If we subtract their fixed expenses, which we'll get here in a minute, $8,572, and we subtract their variable spending of $2,502, we're left with $2,520 left over in their budget to throw at whatever they want. Now, I subtracted their sinking funds, the things that they want to save for, of 1,165. That leaves them with $1,355 left over. Now, I'll be getting into some other things, but that was just me working out the red light, green light test. So this is Christina and her husband's fixed expenses. So they have like electricity, their mortgage is $2,935. Look at daycare though. The daycare for their 2 girls, ages 1 and 2, is now higher than their mortgage. And I'm seeing that a lot with people's budgets. Daycare costs, especially if you have more than 1 child under the age of 5, it is now surpassing our mortgage payments. It is now the biggest expense in our monthly budgets by far. So daycare at $3,130, life insurance, we're getting into some credit cards, their gas, I believe, is for their home. We're getting into some medical bills, some personal loans, some other credit cards, and landscaping. Total monthly expenses, fixed bill expenses, things that they are obligated to pay, $8,572. Now, some of these things they're not obligated to pay. They don't have to pay iCloud or landscaping. But those are pretty much the only 2. The rest are minimum debt payments and things to live. So $8,572 is our monthly expenses. So you can see that's why I was like, okay, income minus the fixed expenses, $8,572. All right, let's go get into variable expenses. This is the type of spending that fluctuates from month to month. So they have food, miscellaneous, gas, therapy, beauty, household, water delivery, children, and clothing for adults. Now, she did have some notes. She said for beauty, I have already reduced my spending by removing lash extensions, routine nail appointments, and facials. And even removing those things, they're still spending $200 a month on beauty. I don't know what for, so I can't speak about the $200, but that's what they have listed. Children expenses. So if we go up here and we look at children, $600 a month. Children expenses includes baby, toddler food, and snacks, clothing, and anything the kids need. Now, I'm about to have a baby myself in August. This looks about right for a monthly budget for 2 children under the age of 2. So, variable expenses of 2502, which you can see that I was working that out on my red light, green light test. This is what gives them that $2,520 left over. So let's get into, I want to get into their debt. So this is their debt picture. And the reason I want to get into this is because the reason she reached out to me and she said, Miko, we make good income, but I feel like we're moving at a snail's pace. I feel like we're not making the progress we should be. Let's look at the debt. So we have 3 credit cards, 2 personal loans, 2 medical bills, a mortgage, and a firm. So out of the credit cards, and she's right, a lot of these, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are considered high interest debt. The highest interest debt is this Bank of America, 27% at $15,000 balance. Now, I can tell you right now, the $156 minimum payment that they're making on this doesn't even cover the interest. The interest on this type of credit card would be around $330 a month. So what happens when your interest is more than the payment you are making? Your debt increases instead of decreases. This is one of the reasons why they're not making the progress as fast as what they think they should be. Their payment isn't even covering enough to cover interest, which means it's not even touching the principal of the balance. Another one that's similar in this situation is the Amazon credit card. We're looking at 24% interest for $15,000. $197 a month is not even covering your interest. Interest on this type of credit card, on this type of balance and interest, is about $300 a month. So another credit card that is increasing instead of decreasing, even though we're making minimum payments. Now, those are the only 2 out of their debts that I saw that I was like, okay, well, we're moving backwards here. We make a minimum payment, okay, that's a step forward. But then it's increasing because our payment isn't enough to cover interest, that's 3 steps backwards. So do you see how that could kind of slow our progress as far as what we're wanting and needing to see? Next, let's look at their savings goals. Now, don't mind me, all my chicken scratches here. That was just me working out some scenarios. But they have some sinking funds. So husband B-Day, summer fun, fall fun, girls B-Days, Christmas, Chinese New Year's, and then celebrations is ongoing. Now, you might notice that they prepare sinking funds for more of seasonal type of activities instead of something specific. I mean, it's specific, but it's seasonal activities. It's not like a specific thing. So they want $600 for the husband's B-Day, $500 for both the seasonal activities, $3,000 for the girls' birthdays, $3,000 for Christmas, $600 for Chinese New Year's, and then celebrations and ongoing. They do have some money already saved here. Now, if they want to really hit all of their sinking fund goals by their due dates, that's $1,165 every month that they are throwing just towards their sinking goals. That doesn't include their main savings goal, which is emergency and renovations on their house. So when I did their red light, green light test, I took their sinking funds from the amount they had left over after doing their fixed and variable expenses, the 1165, that left us with $1,355. Okay, so what I'm doing, here's their budget calendar. Now we're starting with their paycheck on the 6th. It's their first paycheck that they were going to receive in March. Any bills prior to the 6th, I'm assuming that they are covering with their last paychecks or the paychecks from the previous month. So, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So paycheck on the 6th, we're using the husband's pay of 1617. We're gonna pay everything in purple. And then we're gonna cover a couple of their variable spending, all of their food and the gas for transportation that they need. That equals 1259. So after we pay our bills, we're left with 1259, and then we're going to do our two of the variable spending. Now, the variable spending, you can see here, the gas they have at 120, I just put it at 119. We're $1 short, but that's okay. So that's the first paycheck. Okay, now we're gonna go into the second paycheck, which is on the 13th. We're also gonna be using the husband's pay, the 1617. We're covering everything in orange. Do you see how my paycheck color represents the color on my calendar? This is the highlighter method to identify what bills you're paying with each paycheck. If you are getting paid multiple times a month, color coding your calendar is very helpful because you can see at a glance what exactly you are paying with each paycheck. So with this, we're covering everything in orange, which is both the medical bills, the personal loan, and the cell phone. If we take our fixed expenses from our income, we're left with $794 left over. We're gonna also take care of some more variable spending, the children, the water delivery, and the household variable spending. Now, if we look at our paycheck on the 20th, which is the one in green, we are combining paychecks, which means that she is getting paid on the 15th, the husband is getting paid on the 20th. I'm going to hold her paycheck aside. So I'm not going to be budgeting it or using it on the 15th. We're gonna hold it aside and we're gonna use it for our dedicated budget day when he gets paid on the 20th. So we are budgeting every single Monday. So we're paying everything in green. Now, that includes the personal loan, and we have to start preparing for April. We're going to be covering the electricity, mortgage, and life insurance for that, the expenses that are due April 2nd. So we are using our paycheck on March 20th and the 15th, combined paychecks, to cover bills in the new month. So paying those bills, that leaves us with 1448 left over. We're going to cover the rest of her variable spending, which is the miscellaneous, therapy, beauty, and adult clothing. Now, how you split up your variable spending between your paycheck budgets is up to you. How I did hers is I ended up taking care of the most important things first with the money that I did have, like food and gas, then the children and household, and then we get into things that aren't dire necessary, right? Miscellaneous, therapy, beauty, and adult clothing, that's last. Now we have money left over, $1,016 left over. So what I decided to do is cover a majority of their sinking funds that they need to cover, as well as throwing $46 towards their debt. Now, for their debt, I prioritized their debt in the way I would pay it off myself. I pay off my debt using the avalanche method, which is paying off the debt with the highest interest rates first. That means we would knock out the 27% Bank of America, then the 24% Amazon, the 20% the Freedom credit card, and then we would go down to the personal loan at 11% at $14,000, and I ordered it in the highest interest rate first is the way I would tackle it. So anytime I have extra money left over in my budget, I am throwing it towards my number one priority debt. Now I'm still making all my other minimum payments. If I have extra in my budget after my fixed, variable, and whatever else, I'm throwing it towards my debt. Don't worry, we'll be getting into sinking funds before debt here in just a minute. Let's go over the last paycheck. The last paycheck is on the 27th. Okay, it's the husband's pay again on Monday. We're gonna cover everything in yellow. Everything in yellow. And we're gonna be covering the rest of their sinking funds for the month, and then $1,155 is going towards that Bank of America, that number one priority debt. I'm using the very last paycheck of the month, which is hers, to cover daycare, the full daycare costs. That full daycare cost, and then anything left over I am putting towards debt. Now, when we look at this, you might be saying, okay, well, that's 3 paychecks, the 27th, the 20th, and the 31st, where we made debt payments. Bank of America, $46, $1,155, $433. That's quite a bit of money towards debt. But they said, I feel like it's not even making a dent. That's because you are dealing with a credit card that has extremely high interest on a very high balance. To even poke into that principal balance, you need to cover all of that interest first. So this $433 payment that we made, well, about $320 of that is interest. Gone. So I'm going to show you something, and we're going to get into some different visuals. So that's the budget by paycheck. That's how I would budget their money, exactly with the numbers that they have given me. No changes. But let's look. So when I was paying off my debt, I had over $77,000 worth of debt when I started my financial journey. And one of the tools that I used was called a Vertex 42 Debt Reduction Calculator. It's an Excel spreadsheet. You can use the free version that allows you to list up to 10 different debts. It's an amazing tool to see, okay, if I do this, what happens with my debt payoff journey? How long will it take for me to pay off my debt? How much interest will I pay over the life of my debt based on how much my payment is and what strategy I decide to use? So now, what we're gonna look at is I listed out their debt in the order, custom order right here, in the order that I showed you on their debt worksheet. Remember, paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. I just put it into the spreadsheet. Now, you can see on here, they're paying $481,000 of debt. Their minimum payments alone, $4,562 is going towards minimum payments on just debt. So if we look at their income of the $13,594, $4,500 of that is going towards their debt minimum, just the minimum debt payments. With 2 of them, you can see, it will show you here in the red, that aren't even covering the entire interest. So at this point, you have interest accumulating on top of higher balances and interest accumulating on those higher balances. Compound interest is amazing for investing. It is the devil when it comes to debt. So what I want to show you though is, okay, using the exact information, no changes that they gave, I'm making a monthly payment of $5,917. You might be asking, well, how did I get that number? Do you remember when I said I did the red light, green light test? I took their income, the $13,594, minus their fixed expenses of $8,572, minus their variable expenses of $2,502, and I came up with leftover income of $2,520. Well, they also want to save for all of those sinking funds. Remember their sinking funds and their savings? Remember all of these different sinking funds that they want to save for? Okay, so I subtracted their sinking funds from the amount they had left over. That leaves me with $1,355. That means that full $1,355 can go towards debt. That's how I figured out my monthly payment. Because when I take the $5,917, subtract it from my minimum payment, look at the amount, $1,355. That's exactly the amount left over when I subtracted those 3 things. They're fixed, variable, and sinking funds. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how I came up with that. This scenario is exactly the information they gave me. Okay, if we do this, they're making an extra debt payment every month of $1,355. They're going to be debt-free in December 2030. And in that time between now and when they're debt free, the total interest they are going to pay on all of their debts is $64,000. So we know if we continue to do what we are doing, this is our outcome. But does it have to be our outcome? Do we have to continue to do things the way that we are doing them? No. Remember, we are not comfortable seeing the progress that we're seeing right now, so let's make changes. So with that, I made some very quick changes. What I decided is, in their sinking funds, remember, we haven't even touched their two main short-term savings goals, but I said, okay, let's go ahead and decrease the husband B-Day spending from $600 to $300. Let's go ahead and decrease the girls' B-Day spending from $3,000 to $2,000. And let's decrease their Christmas spending from $3,000 to $2,000. Now, could I do more? Absolutely, but I just want to show you with making some changes. So here, right off the bat, I am saving $2,300 because I'm saving $1,000 here. I'm saving $1,000 here. I'm saving $300 here. If I do that, well, then the monthly amounts that I need to save to reach my goal by my goal date changes as well. They decrease, right? So if we're decreasing the husband's B-Day goal, we're going from $128 a month to just $28 a month. Same if we decrease the girls' B-Day and Christmas, those are also decreasing in the monthly amount that we need to save. So $313 to $170, $320 to $194, which means that all of a sudden the monthly amount we need to save for our sinking funds goes from $1,165 to $796. What does these changes mean and these trade-offs that we are intentionally making in our lives to spend less on certain things temporarily? What does it mean for our debt payoff journey? I'm not making any other changes except for the decrease in spending for their sinking funds. Everything else on this is the same. So all of a sudden, our payment is now $6,286 to our debt because, remember, we decreased the amount we're saving towards our sinking funds from $1,165 to $796, which means that we're going to have more money to throw at our debt. Instead of all of a sudden before, so here's the version where we're leaving things as is. Here's my suggested version. Remember, we were dealing with $1,355 before. Now we're dealing with more to throw at our debt at $1,724 because we decreased our sinking fund saving. Look what happens. We're not only debt-free sooner, we're debt-free in May instead of December, which is faster, but we also saved over $3,200 in interest. So we're going from $64,000 in interest being paid to $58,000. And that's just making the 3 changes that I made. Could I do more? Absolutely. But what I'm trying to show here is that this is a great tool to motivate you to spend less. Find areas in your budget where you can intentionally decrease your spending temporarily, right, until you get to a point where you are feeling like you want to with your progress and your debt payments and seeing success in that area of your finances. This is a great tool to say, okay, if I do this, what happens to my debt payoff journey? Okay, if I decrease my spending and I'm able to throw more of my cash flow toward debt, okay, this is what happens. Play around with it. What happens if we decrease their Christmas from $3,000 to $1,000? Is that a decrease that is permanent for the rest of our lives? No, it's temporary until we can get our debt under control. Because what's killing us right now, what's killing us is this Bank of America at 27% and this Amazon at 24%. Here's one other thing I want to show you. So over here on this one, this is the order using the avalanche method, paying off debt with the highest interest rate first. It's going off based that custom order that I created for them, versus the other really well-known strategy of paying off debt, the snowball method, which is paying off the debt with the smallest balance first. I want to show you though what the difference is in your debt payoff journey as far as the strategy being changed. Not necessarily just your debt payment, but the strategy. So we're both doing a payment of 6,286 on both scenarios. Custom order of the avalanche method, snowball method. Using the snowball method, they are going to be debt-free in June of 2030. They're going to be debt-free using the avalanche, my custom order, in May. So 1 month sooner if we're using the avalanche method in the custom order that I suggest. The big one for me though is the reason I enjoyed using the avalanche method on my journey is because I'm a numbers person, and it kept me up at night, and it made me so pissed off knowing how much of my payment was going towards debt, towards interest. The same goes with Christina's situation. She's not seeing the progress because a lot of her payments are going straight to interest because her interest is so high. So I want to get rid of the debt that is costing me the most, which is high interest debt. It's why I chose to do that way. Some people will use the snowball method because they would like to see the success very early on in the journey. They're motivated by paying off the smaller balances first, and that's fine. Remember, there's no right or wrong way here. But using my custom order of the avalanche method, the interest that they're paying over the life of the debt is $58,000. Okay, we can round up $59,000 versus what they are going to be paying $62,000 with the snowball method. You're saving yourself over $3,200 by doing the custom order of the avalanche method that I have versus the snowball. I like saving money. I don't know about you. But my point here though is, do you see how not just the payment amount, but the strategy that you choose to use on your debt payoff journey makes a difference? It's going to change your outcome. And in some cases, significantly when it comes to interest that you are paying. So those are the new visuals, the Vertex 42 debt reduction calculator visuals I want to show you, because play around with it, jump in there. It is very motivational when it comes to being on a debt payoff journey. All right, so that was the real life budget for Christina. Now, if you have debt, I highly recommend that you download the Vertex 42 debt reduction calculator that I've shown in this video. I'll put a link to that tool in the description of this video. It's very important to have clarity around the consequences of your decisions on all aspects of your debt payoff journey. So whether that's what plan and strategy you use to pay off your debt, whether that's the cash flow that you're deciding to throw at your debt, the payment, past the minimum payment. And I feel like this tool does a really good job at letting you see the consequences of the decisions that you make, especially around strategy and cash flow that you decide to throw at your debt, because both are going to have a huge impact on the progress that you make. If you were ever in a situation you're like, man, and this goes beyond just debt, maybe it's savings goals, maybe it's investing goals, and you're sitting there, you're like, I feel like I should be making more progress than I am, then it's okay. And I highly recommend that you go back and look at exactly where your money is going. I'm not talking about spending, just spending. I'm talking about in all aspects, how much is going towards savings, investing, and spending, and debt. Are there tweaks and changes that we can make with what's currently happening with the management of our finances that can kind of make us feel a little more excited about the progress that we are making with our goals, whether that's debt or whatever? I always like to say, just because you set a financial plan in action doesn't mean that has to be your action indefinitely. Doesn't mean that plan is permanent in your life. It's always okay to come back, look at what's happening and say, okay, I want to make changes because I want to see a different outcome. Remember, different outcomes only come if you make changes to what you are doing. Different outcomes aren't going to happen if you continue to do the same things over and over and over. So another thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is just an idea and something I thought about while I was working on Christina's real life budget, is they have a lot going on when it comes to their paychecks. So in March, they are getting paid. So she's getting paid twice. He's getting paid 4 times. That's 6 paychecks. Now I know I did combine 2 of their paychecks in March, which means that we are budgeting 5 times. That's still a lot. What if we could only budget once instead of 5? And what does that entail? That means we would have to get 1 month ahead. And so to get 1 month ahead, what we would do is we would, every single time we would get paid, we would throw a little bit into a savings account so we could cover, that savings account could grow until it could cover all of our spending for the entire month. And we would use that savings as our income for budgeting. And you would literally do that process over and over and over again every month. That might make the management easier. And it's just an idea. Might take them a while to work up to that, to build that savings account to a point where they can do that, but that's definitely an option if they feel a little overwhelmed. Now, I remember when I had to budget multiple times a month, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed checking in with my money regularly like that, but some people find it very overwhelming, and that's okay. So remember, it's all about what can we change to make us feel comfortable and intentional and have more clarity around what we are doing with our finances, and it's okay to make those changes. So 1 month ahead, this video was really all about making your trade-offs very, very clear. If I do this, then this is what's going to happen towards something specific like debt. If you found this video helpful, please like it and don't forget to subscribe. Doing the overview. Okay, doing the overview. Okay, dun 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 dun, dun 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 dun.